Hello, hello, hello. Testing 1 2 1 2. Let's see if you can hear me. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hello. Hello, hello, Okay, let me know if you can hear me correctly so we can start. Let me know if you have no delay in the stream. And in the meantime, I am going to say hello to every one of you. Hello, Bass Fuss, Elijah Rivadeneira. Oof, it's summer here in my country, and it's a little bit warm. So let's see how is it going. Remember, this live solutions is especially for attending to your questions, questions that you have related to the instrument and related to music in general. Really, it's not there's no exceptions. Okay, so we have the usual guys. Hello, and people from all over the world, man. Hi from Turkey. I have a question. What can I do to improve my jazz skills? Whoa, that's a good, interesting question for for starting, actually. But maybe we can chat a little bit about it. And before that, and before I forget, I need to remind you of some things. And remember to follow me on Facebook if you want to get more news about these streams. And remember, there's super chat activated if you really want a more detailed question. That's a good option for you. And also, if you're kind enough to donate, there's also a link in the description. You can use both of them. Okay. Patreon is always a recommendation if you want to support me in a more full way. Just because it's the main source of income for this opportunity and this idea, this work. So thanks so much to the patrons. If any one of you are seeing this, I will always remind you the help that you're doing to me, of course. And that's it. Sorry if I have to always remember that, but you will understand. I'm not supported by any other means other than you people, so I'm very proud of it, and I'm trying to take it back in a way. Okay, so I hope you utilize these tools well, you maintain it healthy, and I'll try to do my best on it. Okay, so let's try to answer a little bit of the question of the guy from Turkey. I don't remember your name, sorry. But it's an honor knowing that I have people from all over the world, really. So what can I do to improve my jazz skills? First of all, you really need to study, and I'm actually studying now a lot of things related into jazz, and the world that is needed to master, or the world that is needed to, the language that is needed to understand jazz will affect all your music taste in a way. Will affect your way of seeing and creating music, even if you're not interested in jazz. And that is the powerful tool, I would say, that it has, because harmony is really well placed, melody is really well placed. It's all academically and theoretically always challenging, and that is always interesting. Okay, so to improve your jazz skills, first of all, I would say, and I want to try to make it a little bit simpler so we can start simple. Then maybe I will get a little bit more detailed, but the most important thing I would say is knowing basic concepts, and after that you will understand what it is to improvise, what it is to know what you need to do in each change of the song that you're playing. And that is for me the most important thing. Okay, when you're confronted with chords, because chords we can't really escape from them if we are in popular music, and it's important, an important tool. So knowing what to do harmonically and melodically, it's really important. So that's what I'm going to try to cover if you ask me more things. And in the course of these streams, is trying to confront you with the idea, especially on bass, that when you have a chord, you need to look at it harmonically and melodically, and what are all the possibilities that you can do. Okay, there are simple possibilities, there's coloring possibilities. All of that will affect the way you confront that voice, that harmony. Okay, harmony is just the leading of voices. And by that definition, you will understand that harmony is just melody, attracted and magnetically attracted to other melodies. Okay, to create harmony. That's all of it. So let's say if you have a C major chord, and or maybe you're in C, and you have some chords. You need to understand what scales and what notes can you do. What are the things that you can do in that specific chord? Okay, so for example, in a really simple example, you are in the scale of C. By definition, now you can construct chords in on top of all those notes, right? From C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, you can create thirds over it, and you will create chords like this. It's and that's from C to G, for example. You have C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F max 7 or major 7, and G 7. That's the tension usual that goes back into your C. And from knowing that, that's a first step. And after knowing what are the notes that are composed in the chord that will always affect into your instrument also, and what is the scale that is attached naturally, and the scale that you can put in the harmony. And that is a thing that many people don't understand. It's all about modes in a way, especially on jazz. Okay, and you need to move around that most of the time. But I'm not going to go that in detail unless a lot of you give me some questions about that. Okay, I know there's some people that want to know more basic things, or maybe more things applied to technique and whatever. So let's try to answer some things. Okay. So we were talking a little bit about how to approach into jazz, and after all, the things that you need to understand is really, you need to go back to the basics all the time. Okay, it's good to see something that you don't understand in a higher level, because it will give you some motivation, but you need to understand that the most important root of your knowledge will be your basic knowledge. Okay, so when you're trying to think about how to improvise and many all other things, you already need to go back into your basics. Okay, so I'm going to try to elaborate that that I'm trying to say throughout this stream, but I'm going to answer some other things also. Okay, so let's see. I commented earlier on comments having been running in here, so I'll tell you again. My hand hurts after slapping. Do you have any suggestion? And what computer do you use for your amps? This is Grunge Kid asked me for this. So regarding the first question, your hand shouldn't hurt when you're playing slap. Okay, your hand itself. What will probably hurt is the tip of your fingers, because you will get a lot of movement there, and you will create some type of blister probably if you're playing around it a lot, especially with the popping. Okay, you will create some hardness in the tip of your fingers, and with this you will probably create some hardness over here in the joint right there, right? But your hand shouldn't really hurt. So it's remember, it's all about the wrist in most of the cases. Okay, the movement of slap is already confronted into movement of your wrist. Okay, so this movement shouldn't hurt. If you're doing something different than that, that might be the problem. Okay, so it's always about the wrist, remember it. Okay, always. So let me know more specifically what are the pains that you're feeling right now, and maybe we can talk a little bit more about it. Okay, so let's search for more questions. Why are people writing in Turkish? I don't know, maybe because I mentioned Turkey, I don't know. Okay, let's see more questions. Someone says, I use Songster to pop or rock tabs, but I cannot find jazz riffs anyway. Well, that's the thing. I don't know if there is jazz riffs, and I understand that. That's another interesting thing, because I always felt attracted a little bit into jazz. Maybe we all feel, because it's really complex and really interesting to look at. But there's no scale that sounds like jazz that you can master. There's no magic trick that you can actually follow to create some kind of a jazz sound. It's more developed into knowledge of many things. And I know, maybe if you want to sound blues, you have your blues scale, right? And you can right, and then if you manage to know that scale, you can sound a little bit like blues, right? Even not knowing some things, because there's a cliche in a way, and that it's not a bad cliche in blues of using blues scale. Why not? Of course. But that is the thing, I would say. In jazz, you need to master approaching into harmony, and that is the difference. So let me go back a little bit in this to create more ideas of what I'm trying to tell you. For my example, I just had a followed C major 7, D7, E7, F major 7, and finally G7, and that is the voices that you can create on top of the major scale, so by thirds, of course, and that is just the chords that we all know. So there's a misconception, I would say, in understanding that harmony in different ways. First of all, and it's important for bassists to know what are the chord tones, the notes that compose all of those chords. So a very good exercise would be trying to understand that. So there's patterns for it. For example, for understanding a C major 7 chord, you need to go and say, okay, this is C, then you have my major third, minor third, major again to create the 7th. And we are always drawing around the chords in bass, especially when you're confronted to walking bass, and that is the main use of jazz theory in bass. The thing that you're doing is creating the chord, but in different sections. You're mostly managed by arpeggios and also by the scale that is related to the chord, and that's what I'm going to follow now. So for each chord you will need a scale related to. So for example, of course, if you begin with C, you will need to understand the major scale. But after that, if you go and you can't just play the major scale on each chord of the major scale and try to sound like it's in the harmony, right? So many people don't understand that, and many guys, of course, in some genres works. You have a series of chords, and the guy is just playing a riff or just playing a solo and not taking that much attention into the changes of the chords. So a good example of that would be if I'm moving from C major 7 to D minor 7. Now I can't just think, oh, I'm just going to play major scale again and don't care about anything. That could be a possibility, but the thing that will make a more make people understand more what is the chord that you're trying to imply would be using a different scale, and that is modes, okay? And that is simply just thinking about this from this major scale, but from D to D. That's a simple way to put it, but the most interesting way to put it is thinking about, no, I'm playing a minor scale, but with the sharp 6th, okay? That is the good understanding of a Dorian mode in this case, okay? So that's a thing that I will try again in some other time to follow. But let's see more questions over here. Let's see what the guy said about his fingers. It's my thumb. The first line thing feels like a pimple is on it. Okay. So there is going to be some problems when you play slap. Again, I said you will have some problems with your fingers, okay? Not your hand in particular if you're doing it good. So when you begin to feel that something is wrong with it, just stop playing, okay? Until you get healed and you can regain your confidence on playing again. Try not to force yourself too much unless you're trying to be a little bit hardcore, and there's no problem with that, but be aware that it will hurt, okay? It won't hurt that much, but it will be annoying, right? So it will take some time for you to create a good slapping sound also, because your fingers at the beginning will be so tender, so soft, that it will maybe not make the sharp sound that you want. And that is just time, Okay, just give it some time and try to practice, but maintaining good positions. Okay, that is the most important thing. Okay, let's see. Slapping variations of Aeroplane by Red Hot Chili Peppers, please. How was it? That's it, huh? That is a good exercise to practice some slapping, really. It's interesting because you're going to move around a lot. But I wouldn't say it's a simple exercise, okay? There's more simple ways to start if you're just starting. Okay. Could you talk briefly about how to read the circle of fifths and/or what is it for, just to get a starting point? Okay, I think that question was not answered in the last time, so I'm going to try to make it into it a little bit more now. I actually would like to search for an image of the circle of fifths, so it's a little bit more easy to understand, probably. I don't know. So let's look at this. I'm going to go into an image and I'm going to tell you some things, okay? I'm going to try to make it a little bit easier. Here's a fair enough image, I would say. Okay, so I'm going to move into this type of a thing, so you can see this. Let's see if it loads. Right there. I think you can see it. This is the famous circle of fifths, and it's almost related to what I was just telling you, okay? This will make you understand in the simpler case what I was just saying about the major scale, the other stream. The major scale will always be the most important now in Western music, and the way of its development created a way of maintaining this major scale, but from all the 12 notes that you can hear in the Western system, right? So if you take the model of C major scale but play it from G, you will need an F sharp for that model to complete itself, okay? So the model, and you can actually prove that with your own instrument in a really easy way, okay? If you know your major scale, it's easy to follow if you don't know it, actually. But I hope most of you know it. It's just, as I said, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Names of the notes. I'm not playing any alterations or anything. And it's just 3, 5, 2, 3, 5, 2, 4, 5 in numbers of tablature, right? Again, 3, 5, 3, 5, 2, 3, 5, 2, 4, 5. If you pick the same model, okay, and that is why these instruments are good to understanding that. If you pick this same model and copy it and paste it from G, let's see what happens. And thinking about it, let's think about it just first with as if it is C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, right? But now the notes are not that. Notes are other notes. It's G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, right? So there it is. That is the whole thing about it. The model of the major scale, you need to copy it into other note, and that alteration will create the completion of the scale from other notes. So that is the alteration that you will need if you want to play a major scale from G. If you want to play from D, you need 2, 3 for A, and then and so on, and backwards it's the same thing but with flats. Okay, from F into, that is the simple way of telling it, but this will tell you many other things. Okay, the concept of key will come from this, okay, from the scale, from the major scale. But many people, I would say, maybe don't understand that, and this is a simple way to put in it and to explain it to anyone, really. That is just the main purpose of all of this, is understanding how the major scale goes around all the notes of the system, okay? And if you understand this really well, you will understand why is that symbol always in the beginning of a score, okay? Why is that always in the beginning? And that already tells me many things. If I see this may be G, and it will be G if it's not the thing that I haven't been talking about, and that is the minor keys, right? We were just talking about the major keys, but in this inner circle right here, we have the minor keys. And the minor keys are always related to a major key. So if we play C again, but we take it from A to A, we're just thinking about the relative minor scale of it, or the natural minor scale, or the Aeolian mode. That is, picking the same alterations, in this case no alterations, from A to A will create a minor scale, natural minor scale, okay? So there's a relation between that, okay? I always think about this in an easy way. If you have your major key, if you pick a minor third behind, you will always have your related minor key, okay? Your relative minor. And that is the same case for all of that, okay? So if you have this in a score or tablature or whatever, it might be G or it might be E minor, okay? So that is the thing. If you have some more doubts, maybe we can check it out, but that is the most important thing you need to know about it, I would say, okay? Let's hope you understand it a little bit, okay? If you have some doubts, you can let me know. So let's see. Why are so many people talking in a language that I don't understand, really? Sorry if I don't understand you, but I can do something about it. I don't even know what language that is. Okay. Someone is talking about an interesting thing, and it's important over there. TA21961, whole step and half step, the major scale pattern, that is important, okay? Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, or tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. That is the pattern of the major scale, okay? So you copy that all over the keys, and that's it. That's it. Okay. Let's see more. You use your thumb joint, yeah, for slapping, right? It's just in the joint, just in the part that is more hard for you to the touch. That should be your main thing. That is why you see many bassists just playing like this, with the thumb really up, like pointing to the back, because you always will have more tension over there and will create a better sound, okay? Okay, can you explain double stops? Okay, for my information, double stops it's just related to playing two or more notes, maybe two notes at a time in bass, okay? Just doing something like this, I don't know. Playing with that, okay? That is my information of it, but I don't know if it's that simple. I don't really know, okay? Maybe I have to work it out a little bit more in the concept of double stops, but if that is the case, the most important thing when you're playing two notes at a time is using obviously two fingers in the same motion. And when you're trying to play harmonically, you always need more knowledge in what we're trying to talk about in the meantime related to harmony, okay? Okay, I have another pending question I remember from last stream, so I'm going to go over it. Can you show me how to play the rest of the song after the bass solo in Wolfpack Animal Spirits? Okay, I'm going to go into that song because I really liked it, and it has some interesting things that maybe we can analyze, okay? So let's go into that. I need to open some softwares over here. Okay, you can ask me more things in the meantime. I never know how the time affects you, because I know I have a lot of people from different countries, so it's hard for me to find a good time for this. I know it's late in some other countries, so sorry about that, I guess. But yeah, I have difference in time. How many bass guitars do you have? I actually have just this one. That is something interesting to say, I guess. I don't know if it's that recommended for you to have just one instrument. Maybe you need more, but my thing it's related to necessity, and my necessity is quite covered with this instrument. I like the limitations of it, and if I have the opportunity, I will probably have some other to cover some things that I don't have in this one, right? So let's search for Wolfpack Animal Spirits. No, okay, there we have it. It's over here. So let's go into after the solo. Let me remember a little bit of the song. Something like that. Here's the riff. Right? So let's go into after the solo, after this part. Because here we have a lot of complexities and interesting things to talk about, okay? So the harmony is quite complex, but this is mostly moving around D flat major, okay? Okay, beyond that, you have D flat major, and you have D flat blues, I think, in most of the cases. So let's see what is covered right here. You have a that is your main thing, right? It's just covering the tonics of all of those chords that you have on top of it. But let's see the feelings. The feelings are really interesting. Over there you have your first interesting thing, and it's just covering the ninth of the A flat chord, I would say. Because we're getting into A flat and then we playing this, and that is interesting always to cover. It sounds really great. Your ninth will always be after the octave over here, and it's sliding into it, so you have okay, there's more interesting things over here. Then we repeat the same thing. This is not that important, I would say. I mean, it's important, but you have this. But then we have some interesting feelings, more developed over here. This is again A flat. Look at all of this. This is really, this I think it took me some time to get, actually. So let's try to analyze it. It's something like this. So the technique developed in this is really interesting. You're having many different techniques applied into just this little thing. Really slow, it's something like this. And then the other part, right? So you're having some sliding, some stingy note, hammer-ons, and more hammer-ons. So these little things over here and over there are just for the sound of it, right? And you can play them in two different ways, but both will sound, I would say, a little bit different. And it's the usual thing I'm doing when I'm playing something like this. Just to give it a little bit of a groovy feeling, right? And that is interesting to apply into your own language, I would say. So we're playing again ninth from 8, and then we're making this passing note. So the sliding for this type of playing should be really slight. Okay, it shouldn't be just pressed down with force. Then it wouldn't sound that subtle as it should be sounding, really. It's more like this. Really fast and really in a movement more of the wrist. I would say you need to relax your grip in the thumb and let your finger just do a little bit of a stingy movement, right? I noticed this might be, of course, it might be easier to pull off with flat wound strings, and it may be easier if the strings are not that worn off, because after a while it will take some more effort to slide in and out if your strings are not that new. Right? So that is a really funky thing to achieve, I would say. Okay. I don't know what happened. I think I went down for a minute. Did I went down? I don't know. Let's see. Has stream gone down? Oh, sorry. Are we back now? Let me know if we're back. Yeah, I really like the way the bass covers the lines of the piano and such. Are accents a new addition in your tab? Um, oh, I don't know why those accents were actually put down now. I never play with accents, and I let it more into the view of my own playing. But maybe I should use accents just to mark some things. But maybe I think when I'm using the staccato mark for some softwares, it's put out as I'm playing it with an accent, but it's not the case for this one. Okay. I think we're back, right? Okay. So this is a good example, as I was saying, of this. This actually took me some time to get it in a good groovy way, a funky feeling. Okay, but something like that. The thing that makes this leak is actually those techniques applied. Okay, if we took out all of those notes, it maybe sounds something like this. Yeah, something like that. Those are the notes, finally. 5th octave, 9th octave, again 9th, and into the D flat. But the notes are not the important thing, it's more the groove into it, right? The techniques. And then you fill it out with some interesting things, right? And there's another one that I remember, it was great. This. And this is a little bit more extreme to pull out. And it has again this little slidey thing, but it goes in and out, and it has some really a long distance to cover. It's something like this, I remember. Yeah. Something like that. So again, you go play D flat from the 9th, you go into the octave, 7th, major 7th, and when you get here, you're trying to play this 7 into the octave, into the tonic, but with this stingy thing again. It's just so the movement comes, I would say, less from the finger and more from my arm, just doing a little bit of a twitchy thing to make it more fast. I think that the speed is important in these things. Really slow now. There it is, right? So then you go and then you're just marking really the harmony that goes on top. It's F and then B flat. But I remember having some bad times trying to figure out this specifically, okay? Having a good aim after going into a slide and then doing that. So many people, I think, call that stings, but yeah, it's something like that. It's just a really fast grace note, played usually with a technique like a hammer-on or a slide, and usually comes back into the same note. Okay, so you can play it mostly in context with notes that are out of the key, or in most times to mark the blues note, just in a slight way. Okay, so like something like this again. Look at the fingers, how they just go really light into all of this. It's almost like twitching it. Okay. Okay. So try practicing it, but not going out of it, not trying to do something like playing it too tight. Okay, it's just releasing a lot of your strength, and releasing the strength that you have here. Okay, it's just like that. I would say that is the most important technique to manage if you want to get into this song. The other things are quite possible if you have some time and some practice. But I wouldn't say the bass lines of this guy Joe Dart are the most complex in technique, but the thing is how it's approached into harmony, and that is the most important thing. Okay. Okay, what software do you use? I would say for the tabs, it's a Go Play Along. Okay, it's a software that I always recommend, really, because it allows you to do many things. You can synchronize the original song, to the tablature, and that's the way I actually make my videos. So I'm always grateful for the guy that made possible that software, because it actually creates a good opportunity for me to do what I'm doing without thinking about that many things to do, right? I really like everything about this line. It's really funky, you know. It's a good honor to those days. Okay, more questions. Let's see what I'm missing. Maybe you should make a video how to restring your bass guitar, because I still have problems with it for some reason. Wow, yeah, that's an issue, I would say. I don't know. Maybe for bass it's not that difficult, but maybe I would actually make a video of me changing some strings. Why not? a live stream of me changing my strings. But you need to have in your hands really a tuner to go into it, and always I would recommend you to not just pull out all the strings at once and going one by one. Okay, first with the G string, you tune it down, take it out fully, restring, and when I'm going here, over here, this bass has this type of thing over here, so it goes in, supposedly it goes in the strings, but I'm never doing it that way, and maybe I should, because I just go and give it about 2 or 3 turns, and then just place it over there, and with the same tension that the strings has, this never actually goes down for me. I don't know if it affects me really into my tuning or whatever, but I never had a problem with the strings doing it that way. It's just giving it some turns and then just placing it over there. The same tension will make the work for me. Okay. How do you sync your fret hand and your playing hand? This is interesting. I remember actually having some issues with that. When you play, you kind of like after a while assume that doing this is not a big deal, but the most important thing when you're syncing up and trying to play at the same time you're fretting is doing both of them at the same time. Okay, they are not really unrelated to each other. So if you're playing a note, I'm actually not always holding the note that I'm playing. I'm just placing my hand slightly, and when I am to play the note, then I press. Okay, so it's so your leading hand of your rhythmic approach should be more your right hand. Okay, so when your right hand plucks, then your left hand kind of like obeys the mandate of the right hand and just goes, okay, now, right? But both of them are almost at the same time. Of course, they are never at the same time, but they should be, okay? I've seen many people doing this exercise that I always tell you, something like this. You know, the same exercise that I always tell you to play as a warm-up. And many people do it like this. They play, then they place the finger, and then play. Place the finger, then play. Place the finger, then play. The thing with that is that something like this happens. You're actually creating hammer-ons without noticing it, okay, without meaning to it. So you're playing something like this. And that will make you into a not that clean sound, of course. You will always have to think about the difference between both movements. But the thing is just, you press, you play, you press, you play, you press, you play, okay? Okay. What else? What else do we have here? I haven't actually written anything of what I've been talking about. I don't know how I'm going to do it with the time marks. So I don't know. How do you change your tuning so easily? If you do and get good tones, I just do it really. Usually when I have to down tune a lot, the sound won't be great. The way that I need to play it won't be great. Okay, so I usually have to adapt my type of playing when I'm down tuning. So if I'm down tuning, I always having more care about the sounds. It's easier for these sounds to come in, this unfretted correctly notes, and some noise that may come from the resonance of the strings. So when I was playing something like the Mudvayne covers, they usually were difficult to play around because my strings were not that tense as they needed to be, because they actually weren't in a higher thickness. Okay, so that I recommend. If you want to down tune a lot, consider having more thick strings, and that will affect your playing in a way, because more tension has, by a physical definition, I think it has more opportunities for you to play correctly. If you have more tension, it's more difficult to play it over here in terms of sound, right? Because they are a little bit more floppy. But yeah, about the good tones and whatever, it's just related to the digital things that I'm doing. Really, it's a lot of work in post-production. Really, I usually have not a really good sound when I'm going out, and then it gets a lot of makeup in the process, especially with some sounds that I know I can't achieve naturally. Okay, sounds that are outside the realm of a jazz bass sound. Usually I have to cut down some frequencies and raise some others, and many things really. Maybe someday I will actually make you a stream related to mixing. Why not? The way I mix the songs. I guess it shouldn't be a bad idea, right? Because I have to mix some songs most of the time. Maybe I can show you what are the things that I am using, because mixing is really an art in a way, and it's really interesting to follow. Aquí tengo algo en español que voy a decir rápidamente porque me gustó. Ayer toqué 4 canciones de los Red Hot Chili Peppers en la despedida de mi cuarto medio. Gracias a tus tabs las cosas salieron perfecto. Muchas gracias. Gracias a ti, Alejandro Flores López, por ver y por apoyarme viendo los videos. This guy just said that he used my tabs for some songs in a gig, okay, for high school, and it was really interesting to follow up, to read. I always like it when people tell me I'm actually helping them a little bit, okay. Mañana voy a hacer stream en español, no se preocupen. Oh, the question about slap, yeah, it's coming. I'm going to mix it up with the second question I have over there about how can I do the double thumb slap. Okay, the technique on the double thumb slap is just not that difficult to understand, but it's difficult to execute, I would say. I'm not the best one for saying all of what I'm going to say next, but the thing is just trying to make your usual slap, but trying not to rebound and let it in a neutral position as many of you might be accustomed to, and I'm actually accustomed to do that when I'm playing some rhythmic things related to slap. But now you need to slap and rest your thumb right in the next string, right there, and then the motion goes backwards, and just with the top part of your thumb, you just go and grab a little bit of the string and throw it up, okay? So it's so I would say the main and most important exercise. I'm not actually practicing all of this, but I would say it's important to maintain a good amount of sameness between the two movements. So you have this, and you should have the same volume, the same dynamics, and the same tone, roughly, of this and this. For me, it's actually a little bit annoying to make, because I don't think I have that thick nails. It actually hurts a little bit. But there's an aggressive way of making it, and there's a more a slight way of doing it. It's just something like this. shouldn't be that aggressive. It's just something that you should manage to have really on time to make something like this. I don't know, something like these types of patterns of thumb, 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 index, middle. And you can say I'm not that good at it. I'm not practicing this all the time, really. But if you want to, there's some videos. I would say Victor Wooden is the great guy related to all of these things. And there's some videos about, specifically about double thumping, because it's a really requested thing. And he talks about this in a really great way. Advice for learning bass and guitar at the same time. I hope you don't mean playing them at the same time, you know. It should be a little bit tricky to do that, but learning, yeah. I come from a place in which I learned guitar first and then I played bass, and I never stopped playing guitar, really. I never actually stopped playing any instrument that I began to play just because I wanted to play one more. Okay, I always turn back into guitar and I play some piano, I play some other instruments, because all of them complement each other, really. And you will know that specifically if you're aimed to acquire more knowledge in music in general. So then you can deposit all of that in whatever instrument, really. But about physique, it's really different bass from guitar, and you will notice. I don't know what is the advice, really. You should try to think about them not as different instruments, because they are not really that different. The way of applying the things are really different, but the construction is not that different, really. And you can deposit some things from guitar into bass, and I actually do that most of the time. I like to play bass as I'm playing some acoustic guitar in this arpeggio way, something like this. And that comes from guitar, really, or maybe some strumming comes from guitar, and your peak playing will come from guitar, okay? But you need to adapt yourself into the difficulties that bass have. I would say the most important and difficult thing that bass has there's more difficulty into managing it, and its sound, its tone, and it's mostly noise. The noises that come from thicker strings that are not muted correctly or managed correctly. Okay, with a guitar you can just put your hand in over here and maybe it will sound great. You don't have to think about that much, because the strings are really tight together, and just with one finger you can actually mute everything, right? But over here you always need to think about, okay, am I muting this string? Am I muting this one? And that may be a little bit difficult to get, but it's what defines for me a good technique from a bad one, is how it sounds related to that. Okay, how are you placing your fingers to create or to mute sounds? How do you play triplets? Well, in technique it really depends on what do you want to do, but in theory, now I'm in this beat 1 2 3 4, right? I'm playing 4 quarter notes and then repeating 1 2 3 4. These are the quarter notes. if we play eighth notes, it's like this: dun, 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 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And if we want to play it in triplet way, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is the whole thing, really, about theory of triplets. It's just in one beat you play 3 equally placed notes, and that can be like I just did it in a quarter note triplets, or even in half note triplets. So it's a little bit difficult to make it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. It's difficult to say it, but it's. But the main thing is just playing 3 notes in the same distance of each other. Now, for fingers, if you go into different examples, playing with 3 fingers would be the most, I would say, natural way of doing it because of this, right? But usually when you go and add a new finger and you're not really accustomed to it, it will make you some problems into it. I usually, when I'm playing triplets, I just go and do something like maintaining the same alternate fingering, but just getting into it in the feel of the rhythm, really. So I don't know if you have a different approach into your question that you can actually direct me to, but how do you play triplets? That's the way. Just try to understand it rhythmically and then figure it out, really. I would really love it, and I'm trying to answer most questions that are more detailed into what is really the question that you have, not in a really broad way, something like, oh, teach me how to play everything. Really, I can't tell you that in 1 minute or even 1 hour, right? So I appreciate more the questions that are really in the point. Where are you from? I'm from Chile. That's a country right in South America, at the end, right next to Argentina, below Peru. What else do we have here? What about triplets in slap? I actually meant, I thought that's where the question led to, really. But triplets in slap are a little bit more difficult. Usually you will need to create different techniques to play triplets related to slap, okay? There's one easy way, and maybe that would be just slap, slap, pop, and that's the usual. Right? But you can also play it with index and middle, and trying to, from the beginning of playing slap, I would say, try to get accustomed to switching between your fingers and getting accustomed to playing sometimes with a thumb and index, and sometimes with thumb and a middle. Okay, creating that difference will actually give you some more ground to cover, and to do something like this. Now I'm playing a slap, index, middle. But again, I wouldn't say I'm the best at this, because I'm not that I'm really not in my free time. I'm practicing my slap techniques. I gotta say, I gotta be honest. I'm not focused on that most of the time. I know it's the visually most attractive way and to show your skills and whatever, but I'm more into other things when I'm practicing alone. Most of the actually techniques on slap that I have came from a song that I had to play. Really, that is most of the time the case. What gauge strings do you use? These are actually 40s, but I usually use 45. And I'm actually thinking of making it a little bit thicker, just to test it out a little bit. Now I'm using Ernie balls, and I think they got me a little bit sold into the quality of their strings, because I've tested some Dunlop and I really don't like them, and the Dario, they were great, but I think the brightness, it kind of like it went off too soon for me. And these strings, I think they are responding actually well for me. So probably Ernie Ball is my brand right now. I'm glad it helped my explanation. Joash Abraham, thanks for the question. How much time do we have now? I think about an hour. I think we're actually getting into the end of this. Usually at the first minutes, man, I have many questions, and people then I assume they just live in anger. I don't know. But sorry if I can't answer all of the questions right when you ask them. I usually have to go up. How can the thickness of the strings change the sound of the bass? That is interesting, because now I'm having thinner strings that I'm accustomed to, and I think it really changed a little bit of the sound. The more thin the strings, the more similar to guitar you will get in the sense of melodic richness and clarity, probably, and more treble into it. And the easiness of playing, it may be a little bit improved. Okay, so usually when you see some virtuoso guys like I don't know, Wooten, or I think Wooten, I heard him say that when he plays a gig and he has to maintain his fitness for playing, he usually plays with lower action and with thinner strings, because that will give you more easiness of working with those strings, right? Whatever. But with thicker strings, I think it will get. I think the sacrifice comes sound versus fitness of playing or technique, because the sound, it gets too thin for my taste, really, and you lose a little bit of the bassiness that bass should have, really, and you're a little bit more thin into your sound. With thicker strings, you will get a really nice E string played out, and the more bassy sound will come out, and in a really more interesting tone for me, I would say. In actually, with higher action, you get a little bit more of the vintage sound, of course, and that sound is arguably best, or the better that you can achieve, I would say. But in aiming of technique and being more pleasant in the way of playing, I would say I would recommend you to get thinner strings and low your action, right? Do you play 5-string basses? And what is the main difference between a 4-string and a 5-string bass? Well, the difference is just one string, of course, and that is a B string right over here. And the main difference is really that you can reach lower notes, okay? It's made for that, for reaching lower notes. And I think the gospel world actually kind of like in history of music went into getting thicker and lower registers, so you can get more of the spiritual sound of a really bassy note right in the register, right? And for that type of sound, it sounds really great, I would say. And for other things like metal, it came through. And obviously, if you want to play some hardcore things and really get into the punch of the sound, you really need lower registers maybe to play some things, and you don't have to down tune that much. Usually, I wouldn't recommend you to start with a 5-string. I would say you will appreciate more having more material after you already are accustomed to play with your 4-string, right? But I have no problem with that. It's just one string more, and it gives you more versatility in what you can do in amounts of register. Why not? And the intervals are not changed because in a bass you're tuned in fourths, right? It's a E, A, D, G, and it's E. From E to A you have fourth, and so on. So from B to E, B, yeah, B, D, G, yeah, you have a fourth, right? So it doesn't change your positions actually, right? That is important. You can actually play the same things from whatever note all over the bass, and the structures will never change. That is not the case of guitar, right? In which you have one string that kind of like doesn't go in the same way, and then you have to change some patterns. And there's more strings. The 6th string adds a higher register string, okay? That is good for playing your solos or playing your more melodic things. Do you play upright bass? No, I don't actually. I would love to have one and get more into it, because you all, I think, need to understand, and we all need to understand that the mother or maybe the father, I don't know, the the god, I don't know, of the bass, of the electric bass, is the upright bass. And for some genres of music, you really want to emulate what the upright bass is doing. So for that, you always need to play more in lower register and using a lot of open strings. Open strings are really important in upright bass playing, and we usually are not accustomed to do that. So some exercises that I'm now working on, it's related to playing around with the open strings and playing something like a major scale of all the tones, all the keys, but using the information that the open strings will give you. So it's difficult to do that. Let's take, for example, playing C major in 1st position. This is 2nd position, right? But this is 1st. We're actually using C in a fretted position. We're using the D open string, E F, and G open string. And that can be achieved in all the keys, right? From G, using your open strings, it kind of like makes you click a little bit more on being careful on what are the notes and what are the names of the notes. It really helps you in that process, because this you can just copy it everywhere, right? But here in first position you have unique positions for each key, so that is interesting. I have some material. Maybe I am actually going to give to you while after I kind of like master it in a way. But try thinking about E major from the open strings, then F, then F sharp, then G, A flat, B flat, now B. All of that needs the use of open strings in first position, so that is important. So again, if you're not really following the use of the major scale in whatever way, it's just a pattern, okay? It's just whole tone, semitone, whole tone, semitone. That same thing you can do in whatever place, or just following this pattern. Oh, Miss Julie, thanks for your videos. They help me a lot to play in streaming without remember the songs or open some sheet tabs for playing one. Okay, I don't understand most of you, but thanks so much. Thanks for the help, really. I hope some of you are with your instrument and just playing around with me. I don't know. I think we're kind of like finishing this up. The lights are actually killing me right now. I'm just sweating profusely. So let's see if we have some more questions, and then I'm going to finish this up. How often do you play guitar and bass? I of course play bass more than guitar, more than any other instrument. Now I'm playing a lot of bass now that I have some other things to do also, some other things to solve. I'm playing a lot of bass. I would say 4 or 5 hours a day, something like that. And guitar I usually pick up when I'm transcribing something or when I want to compose. Most of the time when I'm composing, I'm thinking about more on picking a guitar, just because of the history I think I have with guitar. I think I can compose a little bit better with that, but I'm trying to also pick up some harmonic work in bass, and I think that is interesting. Okay, knowing your chords and how to create chords over here, something like this. I don't know. And creating harmony will make you not having actually the need of picking up a guitar, if you know that. So it may be a little bit more difficult to to follow those patterns, but after a while it's kind of like the same as memorizing the pattern for guitar. And maybe you can actually sing along with someone and saying, oh, okay, but you don't have a guitar, you just have a bass. No, trust me, I can just play the chords and you just play. And I actually like how some chords sound in bass. I really like it. You know, something like this. It has some quality that I really like, that you can actually achieve. But yeah, I think just by being accustomed to do it, I just pick up the guitar when I'm trying to compose something. Which chords were those? I don't actually remember. I don't know. Well, if I was just trying to play Autumn Leaves with some chords at the first time, okay, just. But this type of chord is just a minor chord with an added ninth that I really like. You can play. You can make it major if you want to. I think I'm a little bit out of tune. But yeah, try to make advantage of the 4 strings limitation. That is what I always try to say to people, is try to make advantage of having just 4 strings to make something. It's aiming more into creativity, I would say, because having less when you're speaking about creativity is always great. Having those empty spaces to fill out, it's always interesting. So you can actually cover a lot of ground, and you can become more melodic in your harmony, because you can't play a full 11th chord with 4 strings, right? But you can D-line, make a kind of like a write that chord note by note if you have the knowledge, okay? And that is interesting. Okay, I think I'm closing this up. Thanks, you guys, for being here every Friday. I've been doing this for a long time now. I don't know, about more than a year, I would say, and it just helps some people, and it helps me actually to clarify some things, to clarify my language, specifically my English, that I think it has improved just a little bit compared to the first streams, and mostly because of trying to help you guys. So try to make advantage of all of this. I know sometimes it may be a little bit difficult to understand me, but I'm trying to do my best always, okay? What is the most fun live you covered? I gotta say, I have some fun with all the covers that I make, even if I don't really like the whole song. Just the feeling of playing around with a song and imagining myself playing with some other people, it's always great and interesting. You should always think about it like that, I would say. Okay. After a while of playing a lot of a wide range of different music, I ended up just kind of like liking so many music that that it kind of like expanded my knowledge, and that is always good. I mean, in my philosophy, I think it's always good. So that's it. Um, okay, I will say take advantage instead of make advantage. Right. Noted. Yeah, those are the things that are difficult to get if you're not surrounded by people that are speaking this language. I usually make a lot of mistakes, so sorry about that again. Um, Someone say needles to match. Okay, if you say needles one more time, I'm just going to leave. Okay. um, but that's it. Okay, I'm going to leave anyway. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you tomorrow if you're interested in some Spanish guy speaking Chilean, if more specifically, and I'll see you next Friday if you're not interested in it. Okay, prepare your questions and try to give me some material so we can all work on really. Um, I'm gonna try to give you some tips around the time related to understanding music better, and I really want to have a board in which to write, to give you some explanations of the thing that I was just telling in the beginning, related to understanding a song, but in many other ways that you may not have considered. Okay, so let's see how it goes. I will see you next Friday. Okay, take care and goodbye.